Today, I am going to be explaining to you the 6th Star Wars movie as I remember, from my memory. I have really hyped up my Star Wars knowledge and how I read the expanded universe and played the different Star Wars games and just like all over. I'm such a big Star Wars fan. So we're gonna see how this goes. I think it's gonna be a bit of a mess. My goal, we're gonna go through all 6 Star Wars movies. I'm gonna give myself like 15 to 20 minutes per movie. I'm gonna try to explain the entire plot for you, and maybe I'll be accurate. Y'all will have to let me know. I don't know how accurate I'm gonna be. I think it's gonna be a little chaotic, but we're gonna try our best, so we'll see how it goes, Okay, so movie number 1, The Phantom Menace, aka Viri's favorite, I can't talk anymore, aka Viri's favorite one. I adore this movie because of Darth Maul, but we'll get more into it because I first have to explain the movie. Okay, wait, I gotta actually remember the movie because I'm trying to remember. Okay, here's what's in my head right now. I remember they're on a ship, and then somehow they have to end up on the planet with Anakin. But how do they get on the planet with Anakin? Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. Okay, so there's Queen. She's got, there's Queen Amidala, right? There's Queen Amidala, and she's, they send her to a ship because I think the droids attacked. Yeah, the droids, okay, so she's, this really awesome political person, right? So the movie starts, and she's this really cool political person. And then, after she's a really cool political person, they're like, oh no, she's in danger, the Empire is coming, I think. Someone's coming I think it's the Empire. And the Empire's like, we must catch you. You need. She had to vote for something. They wanted her to vote on something. She didn't want to do it. And so they're like, we're gonna catch you. And she was like, 1 second, where's my eraser? She was like, no, I don't want that. I would like to not be caught. And so they're like, okay, we're gonna. The Jedi's coming. We're gonna save you, okay? And so in order to save you, they put her on a ship, okay? And the ship is it's like this. I think it looks like a kind of like a Dorito, the Trade Federation. You can't help. I have to remember this. Okay, so Amidala goes on a ship, and then they on the ship is Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is the Padawan apprentice right now, right? He's old. It's not like he's young, but he has a master known as, I forgot how to spell it. I think it's Qui-Gon Jinn. Something like that. Qui-Gon Jinn. So, you got Qui-Gon Jinn, you got Obi-Wan, they're keeping Amidala safe. And they're on a they get on a ship, but why is the ship broken? Why was the ship broken? At what point did they meet Jar Jar Binks? No, they don't meet him yet, because they gotta get to the planet and have the fight, and you have the big guy. Okay, we're not there yet. Sorry, forget you mentioned Jar Jar Binks. Okay, so Amidala's on the ship with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, and why does their ship break then? Their ship breaks and there's a part that breaks. And that's what leads us to this planet. Is it Tatooine? I think it's Tatooine. Oh, that's not right. Wait, 1 second. Okay. So now we're on Tatooine, and Tatooine is sandy. It's super sandy, right? So we're on Tatooine, we land, and they're here, right? They land on the planet, and they need to get this part, and they get off, and they're before they get off the plane, this is really important. This doesn't sound important, but this is really important. Amidala is no, wait. Okay, this is Amidala. Amidala is take my maid with you when you go to the planet. She'll be my eyes and ears, okay? This is her maid. Her maid named Padme. Padma? Padme. I'm pretty sure it's Padme. And this is very important. Padme is probably the most important person in all of Star Wars, okay? I don't want to spoil anything here, but keep your eye on Padme. So, okay. So Padme goes onto the wait. Don't they have Jar Jar Binks at this point because he eats the there's this scene. There's this scene when they go to the okay. No. Hold up. There's this scene where they're in a market. It's coming to me now. They're at the market, right? They're at the market, and there's like this food stall, and it's got like bugs and insects on it. And okay, this is actually Jar Jar Binks. He's got big ears and I think that's what he's got. Yeah, he's got big ears and he has a tongue. And he uses his tongue and eats the bug. And then this flying guy, right? He's like, oh, I don't like that. Don't do that. Right? He goes like that. And then the Anakin, this little kid, also very important, is like, you should keep an eye on your friend. He doesn't like that. And then Qui-Gon Jinn's like, ho, you smart kid, huh? And so Anakin's like, no, like, you don't let your friend eat that. And so then Anakin, like, helps him out, and they go over to the house, and how do they end up with Jar Jar Binks? They go to Jar Jar Binks' planet, and he gets on their ship when he shouldn't, and there's always a bigger fish. Always a bigger fish is in the second movie, isn't it? Right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, there's a couple spoilers this stream. So, be careful with that. But okay, so then they meet this kid named Anakin, right? And then they go, and they find out that the part they need, they don't have, this place doesn't take the credits, okay? So they're at the place. They're talking to Anakin. They find out that this guy, he looks like he kind of looks like the guy I just drew, but he's got wings. Okay, he's got wings. He floats, and he's like, I got the money, or I got the part you need, but you don't have the money that I need. And so wait, we can get rid of this, right? This guy's like, you don't have the money. And then you also find out that Anakin, little boy Anakin, is with his mom, alone, right? And this guy owns them. Unfortunately, they're slaves owned by this guy. You find out that they got sold. And Anakin is like really smart. He's building a robot, right? He's building, he's got, this is a robot. Beep, boop, boop, boop. This is C-3PO. And then there's R2-D2, right? He's like really smart, and they take him to their home. And so there's Qui-Gon Jinn, and there's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Padme, right? And Anakin's like, hey there, Padme. And Padme is like, young child, right? But it's really important that you notice that this is going to come up later. So, I guess it's like take notes for later, foreshadowing. These two kind of, they hit, oh, not you, C-3PO, you're not allowed. These two hit it off, okay? They start kind of, making a friendship. But then, you find out the reason this guy, is kind of like, keeps Anakin in his mom's piece. Anakin, first off, is really good at building things, but also Anakin's really good at this thing called pod racing. Okay, we got some pod racing, and so basically, through a series of convoluted events that I don't remember and can't be legal. Like, if you think about it, everyone on this plane is like part of the government, right? And they basically contract a little kid to pod race for them, right? And then so Anakin's like, no, I can win this. I can do it. Okay? This is him in his pod. And then we have this whole really epic pod racing scene, which, by the way, is probably one of the coolest cinematic things you've ever seen in the universe. But, like, there's this one part where there's this one guy that's cheating, right? Well, there's actually a lot of people cheating. They don't want Anakin to win because they could lose a lot. Because they bet, like, the freedom of him and I think his mom. No, I don't think they got freedom of his mom, but they were able to gamble for Anakin and like the parts and some other stuff too. Anakin's like, I can do this, and they cheated and they like broke his equipment, but then he got out of it. And then What else happens? Oh yeah, okay, so there's this cool part where they're all going through this area, right? Imagine like this is mountains on both sides, and there's like this like really cool scene where they're like going through, and then the two pod races are like bumping into each other, and then Anakin like bumps one so hard that he like runs into a wall and explodes everywhere. It's so cool, and he's like, "This is pod racing." I think something like that, right? And then Anakin wins, right? This deserves yellow. He gets the trophy. Boop 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 boop. And oh yeah, right. Okay, there's this other thing that's introduced in the movie that every fan becomes like super rabid and angry and grumpy about, called metachlorians. It turns out that people that are good at using the Force, they introduce this just in the first movie and kind of forget about it for the rest of everything, basically. But they introduce this concept of metachlorians, and they can measure the metachlorians in the body. And Qui-Gon Jinn is like, "Heyo, this kid's got a lot of metachlorians. Like, we should bring him with us." And Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, "No, you can't bring him. He doesn't have the emotional depth, right, to be a Jedi." Oh, I haven't understood the concept of Jedi. So Jedis are like these people, and they fight with these things called lightsabers, which are like giant electrical swords, basically, and they wave them around and it slices people up. And they train for years on this. And there's a good side and a bad side. There's the Jedi and the Sith. And there's a lot of Jedis, but there's only ever 2 Sith. This is important. There's only ever a Master Sith and an Apprentice Sith. Which means, like, Sith are so much cooler, by the way, because they only need 2 to knock out, like, all of the Jedis. Whereas the Jedis have a whole council and they're boring and blah, blah, blah. But, anyways, Obi-Wan Kenobi is like, "I don't think we should take this kid. He has too much, like, anger. He has too much, like, emotion," right? And one of the most important things about training to be a Jedi is essentially letting go of your hatred and fear and emotion so that you can, like channel being a Jedi and being good, whereas Sith lean into their emotions. And he's like, Anakin has too much like emotional damage and just like hatred in him that he would never be able to be a Jedi. And Qui-Gon Jinn is like, "No, he has the most metachlorians ever. You don't get it. He's got max metachlorians. We're gonna risk it for the biscuits, right?" So then Obi-Wan's like, "Now we're gonna take him." And Anakin's like, "But like, what about my mom, right?" He's like, "But my mom." And Qui-Gon Jinn's like, "Yeah, sorry, that's not gonna, we don't got, no," basically. So they leave the mom behind. That's important in the future. It seems like it wouldn't be important, and, you know, you would just kind of forget about that plot point. They don't! But for now, we leave the mom. They leave the planet on their little Dorito ship, and now they can go. And what they're trying to do is go to the planet, Amidala's planet, right? Basically, wait, when is the part? Do we get to the planet at this point, or is it in the second movie? I'm pretty sure we get to a planet. So then when did they blow up the second, did they blow up a Death Star here? Yeah, they do. Okay, so then they go, I remember this, I think. Yeah, okay, so we go onto a ship, right? Because they needed to, like, steal some information or something from the evil, like, Federation, okay? So they're on this giant ship, and they're like, the entire council of good guys is like, "We need to get on this ship and get this technology." And so then they're like, "Okay, but like, that's kind of dangerous." And they're like, no, we can do this, okay? And so then they're going through, and somewhere in the process, you also remember that, or you also learn that, surprise, Amidala is actually the maid. And Padme is the real queen, and she just has her maids pretend to be her so she can run around and not handle her responsibilities. So then you find out that Padme is like the main person, and she's like, "I'll lead this." She'll lead the charge. And then you have all the Jedis and stuff need to get on the ship, right? And then when you get on the ship, to do their thing because they have to destroy it because it's dangerous and they're pointing a gun basically. So the ship has a giant gun and they're pointing it directly at Amidala Padme's like home country, like her home planet. And Padme's like, we must save them. We must do it. And so then they're like, okay, so they get on the ship, right, in order to destroy. This is like Death Star number 1. There's like 15 Death Stars. They're not very original as the villains. So then they get on the Death Star, and then okay. The end of this movie is so fuzzy to me. But yeah, they get on the Death Star, like ship thing. And then you find out who the young Sith is, who the apprentice Sith is. Well, the apprentice Sith is the coolest guy on the planet, by the way. His name is Darth Maul. He got spikies everywhere. He has, okay, so this is very important that y'all know exactly what he has. He has dual lightsabers, and then Duel of Faith goes off, and it's like dun 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 dun, you know. And then they have this really cool scene for Duel of Fates, and then they have like these like they have like these doors, right? So if you picture these giant, this scene I know. This is core. This is a core memory. So then they have these things going up and down, right? And there's this really cool scene. They're going over this bridge, and they're going over this bridge, right? And then you got Darth Maul, because he's just that guy, right? And he's fighting both Qui-Gon Jinn and he's fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is kind of iconic. He's got a blue lightsaber. And Qui-Gon, wait, is Obi-Wan Kenobi the one with the blue lightsaber or the green lightsaber? I think Qui-Gon Jinn's the one with the, I say iconic and I don't even remember which one has the green and which one has the blue. But for memory's sake, this one is Obi-Wan and this is Qui-Gon Jinn. I should do that in green. Okay. And they have this really cool scene where they're like over the bridge, and then they're fighting, and then Obi-Wan gets, like, knocked down, but then he gets this little tiny rock ledge, and he dangles from that, right? He dangles from that. But then he lifts himself up and jumps over here, and then they do some fighting again, right? But then we get to this part with the door. And this is like core icon. Wait, no, but this is important. He's still down here when we get to the door part. Okay? Well, Obi-Wan's still down here, okay? This is so important to remember. He's on the Hound Hole down here. And then you got Qui-Gon Jinn on one side, right? And there's like this whole thing and he's kind of losing, and then the door goes up and Qui-Gon Jinn just like gets on his knees and just like thinks and meditates for a bit, right? And then you got Darth Maul over here, and he is skulking around. He is watching him. He is standing there. He is pacing. He is ready. He is in it to win it, okay? He's walking, and then, like, the door comes down, and Qui-Gon Jinn, like, kind of gets up, but he doesn't. He, like, fights, but it's, like, not. It feels like he's kind of given up, you know? It's kind of weird. This is the only part of the entire sequence that I feel is kind of weird, is Qui-Gon Jinn kind of loses, but, like, it feels like he could have done more. He's, like, you know, the Master Jedi. But anyways, Darth Maul stabs him in the stomach, and he's like, and then Obi-Wan's like, no! And then he jumps up, and they have this epic fight, and they go back to these stairs, right? They're on these stairs, and it's like, it's getting really fast, like the music's getting so intense. And then Obi-Wan, it breaks my heart, but also it had to happen, cuts Darth Maul in half! He just gets sliced in half, and then both pieces of him fall down to the bottom of the bridge. And if you know anything about the expanded universe, you know he actually gets dumped in a trash can, and then he comes back as like the top part of his body, and he's a spider. But that's for a different day. That's not important. But I just want you to know that everyone thinks he's dead, but in expanded universe, he is kind of alive. Okay, so then Obi-Wan, you know, Qui-Gon Jinn's gone, but Obi-Wan has won, right? Obi-Wan is like, huzzah, at what cost, but I have won. And then while this is happening, while they were like going and taking care of Darth Maul, they put Anakin Skywalker, like, oh, by the way, his last name's Skywalker. That's kind of important. The Skywalkers are a little bit iconic. They put him in like a ship in a bay, and they're like, "Don't move, stay there." Of course, he doesn't, because all these droids come out, right, of this door, and they're like the fighting. Some of them got like the spider legs. There's a whole thing going on, and so then he's like, he takes his ship and he pew 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 pew. Well, he takes them all out, but he activates like the auto like flight or whatever. So then, because of that, he ends up flying outside. And again, this is like Death Star thing, ship, whatever they need to destroy. And so he like gets together with all of the other alien ship, or not alien ships, like good people ships, the good side, the not dark side, the alliance side. And they all are in like these fighter pilots, and they are trying to take out like guns on the ship. And there's of course this one little tiny like the spot right here that someone needs to perfectly go through, kind of like the pod racing scene, right? Needs to go through, and they need to shoot that. And when they shoot that, that is woo, that the whole thing explodes, because I don't know why they put the exposed underbelly of the ship outside for anyone to access, but they did. And there's this whole scene where all the like, you know, ace fighter pilots and stuff are getting blown up and dying. And then some guy's like, oh, I can, you know, this will be easy to shoot. It's like shooting bantha fodder or something on my home planet or whatever. And he ends up dying, and it was kind of a whole thing. And I was like, dude was bragging. But anyways, of course, Anakin Skywalker, as he's kind of the chosen one, you don't find out yet. But I feel like with the midichlorian thing, you could kind of assume. And then Anakin Skywalker goes onto the ship, right? And then he shoots this thing, and then boo! The ship explodes. They exploded. And this is really important because I forgot to mention this entire subplot. If you remember, they're trying to protect Padme's home planet, Naboo. Okay? And on Naboo, there are all of these all these like what do you call them? Like droids. They have a droid army, the enemies, and the droid armies are coming after Naboo. And there's this alien guy. He leads the Jar Jar Binkses, right? Maybe that's how they end up with Jar Jar Binks. But anyways, they convince him to help the Nabooians, Nabooian people, to fight against the evil Sith overlords and their droid army. And he's like, Misa, haha, blah, 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 and he makes that thing. And so they're fighting off, and there's this whole, like, scene, and there's this one scene where Jar Jar Binks doing Jar Jar Binks, like, gets a droid stuck to his foot, and he, like, starts flinging it around, right? It's like, pew, 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 pew. And he, like, takes out a lot of droids. And so they get on, they're getting overwhelmed, so they're, like, hiding in this little tiny, like, castle in Naboo. But then, because Anakin, again, if you remember, destroyed the Death Star, and there was that big explosion, all of the droids conveniently die from that. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, if you kill the ship, you kill the droid. So all the droids die. And then everyone's celebrating, and it's a whole thing, right? And so then they won! And so then they're like, yay! And they celebrate. And then there's, like, a big celebration at the end. I mean, they have a scene where they have to, like, light, you know, Qui-Gon Jinn's body in a pyre for, like, respect. And then Obi-Wan's like, Anakin's like, what's gonna happen to me, right? Like, Qui-Gon Jinn wanted to take care of me. Obi-Wan wanted nothing to do with me. And oh, by the way, Obi-Wan has a ponytail. Obi-Wan's like, no, it's okay, I'll take care of you. But, like, you're kind of in the back of your head, like, Obi-Wan said that you couldn't, you know, be trusted. Like, he was worried about you. But anyway, so Obi-Wan takes friendship, or, like, becomes the apprentice, Anakin becomes the apprentice of Obi-Wan. There's a big party in Naboo. All of the Naboo aliens and the Naboo people, they get together and they have friendship now. And there's a whole party, and then the movie ends with Padme, right? She's, like, fully in her Queen Amidala, like, fit, and she makes, like, eyes with Anakin. These eyes are important. They make sure to emphasize the, like, eyes scene at the end. And then that's how that ends. That's episode 1. the good guys win. How inaccurate was I? I think I was pretty close, right? You remembered it all wrong. I'm glad I could clear that up for you. Okay, so movie number 2. Now that we know we were pretty accurate in one, I actually feel kind of confident. Okay, so the Clone Wars. So the Clone Wars start, right? And you see, like, this is not Princess Amidala. This is a Sith. This is an evil guy, and he's like, hey, the robots didn't work very well. We need something a little smarter, right? And the guy's like, oh, he's rubbing his hands together. He's like, oh boy, have I got something for you. Wait, he's happy. Okay, and so then they pan to this scene, and it's like thousands of like army, and they're clones. They're all clones. And so it turns out that this guy here, they can just conveniently make an entire army of clones. And so then he's like, yeah, I got the army. They never really said how they paid for this, actually. I always kind of wondered. But anyway, so they got all these clones, and then they introduced this whole concept of, like, there's this one epic clone hunter guy. His name is, it's not Jar Jar Binks. It's Jet. Yeah, Jet. It's like Jet, not Jabba the Hutt. Jet. It's Jet. Something Jet. So we'll just call him Jet. Okay, I'm sorry. My memory is so fuzzy on this movie because I watched it once and it was really bad. So this is Jet, and he's a clone, but like a bounty hunter clone. He's like an awesome clone, okay? And so then Jet is like, don't worry, I got this. I'll hunt them. And then you then pan over after. So the evil guys have their army of people. And then, I don't know where this arrow came from. Well, it's here now. Okay, we got an arrow. Anyways, ignore this arrow. I don't know where it came from. But, so we got Obi-Wan. If you remember, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker's taking them on. And then they have this scene where they're, like, on a city, and they're, like, keeping Padme safe, because, you know, everyone always wants to hunt for Padme. And so they like, it's this really cool futuristic city, and then they go, and there's, like, someone trying to attack her. They're trying to put, like, a worm in her ear, right? And they stop that, and they try to go and chase the assassin. And then, Anakin does some flashy stuff on a ship, because, you know, he's still kind of got his ship vibes going for him, but he's, like, cocky. He's, like, a cocky teenager, right? And so, he goes on this ship, he gets the assassin, and then the assassin, if I remember right, is like a clone, and that's kind of how they start learning about the whole clone thing. And then I think Obi-Wan was like, hey, stop being so cocky, that's not very Jedi of you. And then, so they save Padme, but then I don't remember anything that happens in the middle of this movie. I don't even know if there was a middle of this movie. But there was this whole scene. I would like to write on this layer. Hello? Let me write on this layer. How does this work? Oh, that's not right. Okay, we're good. Okay, so yeah, okay, so now there's something that happens in the middle. I think they fight Jet. I feel like they fight Jet. Wait, what's the part with Count Dooku? Count Dooku's not till the 3rd movie, right? No, Count Dooku is the 2nd movie. Okay, so then there's this whole fight with the clones, right? There's the big epic Jedi fight with the clones. I don't remember anything in the middle for this movie, so it probably wasn't important. And then you find out that the like evil Sith has taken on another apprentice. And this is kind of like a betrayal moment, because Count Dooku was like, he was like on the council. He was like a whole thing. They thought he was a good guy. Well, it turns out he's Sith. And so they have another Sith fight, right? Why does he look like a teacup? Anyways, this is Count Dooku. Dooku? This is like Dookie. It's Dooku. they fight Count Dooku, and of course Obi-Wan wins because Obi-Wan is just that guy, right? At this point, he's just knocking out, like, Sith left and right. And so, no, wait, Yoda comes in too. Oh, yeah, Yoda fights Count Dooku. Right, sorry. Okay, Obi-Wan is not that guy. Okay, so Yoda, which is, like, this 1 foot tall, like, Jedi master, like, the coolest, most epic guy ever. And when he fights, he does, like, Levi barrel rolls, if you know Attack on Titan. But anyways, he takes out Count Dooku. So Count Dooku's dead. Anakin is probably fucking off doing some like, spaceship stuff. They put him in a spaceship to do, like, fighter pilot stuff a lot. And then they fight Jet. This is important. They fight Jet, right? And then Jet gets killed. And you find out that Jet was a dad and had a kid, but he'll come up later. But anyway, so Jet also dies. So, yeah, he's dead. Dooku's dead. Jet's dead. Did they fight the clones? How did they beat the clones? Did they just murder all the clones? No! Oh, I remember this. Okay, sorry. The second movie, you can tell, the second movie is not my favorite. Okay, so they don't beat the clones. I remember this. They pay off the guy that had the original clone army, right? They pay him off because this guy just needs money. And so they were like, hey, we're richer than him because he's dead. And so then they give him money and the clones just fuck off and leave. And so then they win with the power of money. And I remember that's why I didn't like the second movie very much, because they win with the power of money. And then, so they beat him, but then Yoda has this fire line about how, like, there's always two, right? Because they're like, did we win? And Yoda's like, no, there's always two. And then I'm pretty sure Anakin and Padme have some more, like, flirting, because that's what they do. And then they win this one. That's all that matters. I'm pretty sure that's all that matters in Clone Wars, is that they do a little more flirting, and Yoda says that line about there's always two. And that's Clone Wars. Yeah. Honestly, Clone Wars is probably the worst of the bunch. I don't remember a lot of it, but I think that I covered the hits. I covered, like, the top hits of the Clone Wars. How old is Anakin in this? Good question. He's like 16, and Padme's like 23 or something like that. Something like that. There's an age gap for sure. But I don't remember the age gap. Please rewatch it. Isn't that most of it? How off was I? Like, if you like, how much should I really mess up, you know? It was boring. Exactly. It was too boring to remember that movie. It was actually better than the movie. Okay, we're on to our next one. Now, this movie gets spicy. This movie is called... What is this movie called? This is the third one. The third one. What is this one called? Is it like... Okay, you have... Wait, is this Revenge of the Sith? Is this Revenge of the Sith? It might be. I think it's Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith, right? Okay, so then... Now we have the third one, Revenge of the Sith. So this one... Okay, a few things happen. They introduce a lot of new characters, okay? But the most important things to remember are that Padme is still in danger, right? Padme is always in danger. And so the movie starts and Anakin gets sent to a planet with Padme, okay, to protect her. I think at this point he's like 18 or something and she's like 25. Something like that, okay? Excuse me. So Anakin is on a planet, isolated, protecting Padme because she's in danger. And of course, what do two young adults do when they're trapped on a planet with nothing else to do and they didn't even give them, like, checkers or, like, to play or, like, a book to read? Yeah, they do the birds and the bees. They do the birds and they do the bees. So they get it on. super not good. He's a Jedi, so first off, he's not supposed to like have kids, you know. And second off, you know, he's protecting her, but also so the movie starts and they've had kids. And then on the other side of the movie, on the cooler side of the movie, because no one really cares, who really cares about this romance? Nobody. Nobody watches Star Wars to see the romance between these two weirdos. But anyways, it happens, she gets pregnant. It's important. But again, Padme is like the most important character. Everyone's like, Anakin Skywalker's the most important. He's the chosen one. Oh, also they retconned the whole midichlorian thing, but he's still the chosen one. But Padme kind of, she starts everything, you know? Not that she, like, engages. Well, I mean, they flirt with each other, but, like, Padme, like, just existing is what causes everything. So, on the other side, on the cool side of the story, that's actually cool, you have, this new apprentice, right? What is his name? He's got, dude, everyone loves this guy. He has like 15 arms. He's got a ton of lightsabers. When does Admiral Akbar come in? I think he's in 4, 5, 6. Okay. So you have this guy, and he's got a bunch of swords, and he's Sith, and so, of course, Obi-Wan, the icon that he is, takes another one out, so he takes this guy out and kills him after a pretty epic fight scene, honestly, with lots of really cool stuff. Is his name Droideka? Droideka? I think it's like Droideka. And so he kills him, right? And then they go back, and then it's like Obi-Wan, and he's got Anakin, right? And then the Yoda, and they have this whole council thing, right? Oh, but before the council, so you find out, no, this happens first, then the council thing. Okay, so, you have the whole council thing, right? And then Obi-Wan's like, yo, promote my apprentice. He's ready. And then everyone's like, he has too much hatred in his core. He has too much emotion. And then Yoda drops his fire line and he's like, fear leads to hatred. Hatred leads to no, wait. What is it? Anger leads to fear. Fear leads to hatred. Hatred leads to suffering. Such a fire line. Something like that. It's pretty great. So then Yoda's like, yeah, sorry, he's just not ready. Right? He's just not ready. And Mace Windu, icon that he is also like, by the way, he's got a purple lightsaber. He's pretty cool. He's the only one with a purple lightsaber. He's like, yeah, sorry, he's just... I know you, like, trained him for a long time, and it was, like, your master's only wish that Anakin, with his, like, high midichlorian count that we don't believe in anymore, would be, like a Jedi. No, we don't do that around here. Well, it turns out, okay, while this is all happening, there's this big, like, political council thing, right? And there's this guy, I don't remember his real name, you can just call him the Emperor. There's this guy named the Emperor, right? And he convinces everyone that it's too dangerous and we need to, like, raise an army or something. I don't remember what he convinced them, but it was something bad. And then Padme dropped this oh, by the way, Jar Jar Binks is a politician now, which is why you know that they were gonna fail, because why would you ever make Jar Jar Binks your, like, most important, like, most competent, you know, government employee? I think that's why Padme failed more than anything. But anyway, she drops this fire line and she's like, oh, this is how democracy ends, with thunderous applause. And so then the Emperor is in charge of everything now, and he's like, good, let the hatred flow. And he controls, like, the entire government. And I don't remember, there were some other evil guys that, like, sat in a chair, and they contributed something, but they're not really important, but you can just know that they did exist at some point for some reason. Okay? And so now we have our whole council thing, right? And Anakin, he's angry. He's like, I deserve this. How could you not promote me? And Mace Windu is just chilling. And then the Emperor's like, let the hatred flow. Let it flow through you. You deserve it. You deserve your promotion. And that's a lightsaber, I think, not a bat. But then Mace Windu's like, no, you don't. You haven't earned it yet, right? And then for some reason, these three, oh yeah, right, I remember this. Because these three end up together, right? And Mace Windu ends up having to fight the Emperor. And the Emperor is like kind of actually losing because Mace Windu is just that guy. But then the Emperor cheats and gets the upper hand because Anakin does something stupid. And then because Anakin does something stupid, Mace Windu loses his focus, and then he gets electrocuted like crazy. Absolute electrical. By the way, I forgot to mention this. The Sith have like these electrical powers or whatever. And so then Mace Windu's like, no, Anakin, save me! And Anakin's like, you should have promoted me. And so then Mace Windu dies, which, by the way, the dumbest thing ever. It's all his fault. He was just throwing a tantrum, and because of that, we lost one of the coolest characters. So, yeah. Anyways, and by the way, this guy is a loser. He was losing. I just want y'all to know that Mace Windu, this is really important, Mace Windu should have won that. He's a king. He deserves a crown. If Anakin Skywalker wasn't throwing such a hissy fit, then Mace Windu would have been fine, and I will never forgive him for that. I mean, there's like 500 things that Anakin Skywalker does to ruin the plot, but this one was just egregious. So then Mace Windu dies, right? And then Anakin's like, oh my gosh. And then he like feels something from like the other side of the galaxy. And he like remembers his mom finally, like 10 or 15 years later. And then he goes back to Naboo. Not Naboo, Tatooine, where the pod racing was. If you remember that from the first movie, I know it's been a while. But he goes back to Tatooine and he's like, Mother, where are you? Well, it turns out his mother died. Yeah, his mother's dead. And so that makes him angry. Angrier than he already is because of his promotion and getting the coolest, Jedi on the planet killed. And so he's like, Jedi shouldn't exist. Jedi shouldn't be a thing. Jedis are the problem, right? And so then, for some reason, that turns into him deciding that he's gonna go to a school of Jedi children, and murder all of them. He just murders all of the children. Execute order, I forgot what it was called, 60-something? And so he murders a bunch of children, which honestly, there's no going back to that. I think the Emperor is like over here whispering in his ear, like, good, let the hatred flow. And he's like, if I can't be promoted, no one can be promoted. And so at this point, he's pretty much a Sith. He's pretty much a Sith, right? And so all the children have been killed. I think some clones, I think they like paid some clones to like help with this. And so they pretty much take out the entire Jedi Council. All the Jedis they decimate, all the Jedi trainees they decimate, all the, like, government, they destroy everything. Anything that could have rebelled against them, they did. Yoda just fucks off to who knows where, because he probably could have prevented this, but instead he was like, nah, sorry, it's my 15-minute lunch break. Like, I can't, I'm sorry. Like, it's a bummer, Geez, I really would like to help, but I can't. I'm, like, kind of the most, powerful Jedi on the planet, but peace! And he pieces out. So, yeah, Anakin, and then there's this whole thing, right, because Obi-Wan is just like, dude, guys, I left for 5 minutes to go get some Burger King, and now what happened, okay? And so there's this whole thing, and Anakin, right, he talks to Padme, remember, because Padme is pregnant, and he's like, Padme, come with me, we can be awesome, or whatever. I got a promotion. I finally got that promotion we've been going for. I had to go a little roundabout of a way to get it, but I have been promoted. And Padme was like, what? No. That's not gonna work for me. That's not gonna work. So she dips, right? And then Obi-Wan shows up and is like, you were supposed to be the chosen one, that we retconned the concept of chosen one, but you were still supposed to be the chosen one, right? And then Anakin was like, wait, who has the high ground? Oh, Obi-Wan's over here. He has the high ground. This is Anakin down here. Anakin does not have the high ground. He's like, give up, Anakin. I have the high ground. And Anakin's like, you turned her against me. It's all your fault. It's all your fault, right? And so then, they have this fight. Oh, I forgot to mention, they decided to fight in lava. That was just kind of like, they were feeling it that day, It was kind of a rough day, so they kind of fought in that environment. And so then they're having their lava fight, right? And of course, again, I've said this 100 times, but Obi-Wan is just that guy. Not only does he have the high ground, and he's kind of like mocking him, and Obi-Wan's like, or Anakin's like, you turned her against me. It's all your fault. And Obi-Wan's like, dude, can you stop being a whiny little brat for like 1 second? Like, dude, yeah, why did I adopt you? But anyways, he cuts his hand off. That's when the hand cuts happens. And then it like falls in the lava. And then he like loses, he cuts off his other arm, and then he cuts off his leg. He kind of cuts everything off, and he's like, yeah, sorry. He can't finish him off though, because he did kind of like raise him, and so he feels kind of bad about that. So Obi-Wan takes off with Padme, and then on the ship, right? On the ship, where everyone's, this is pretty much like the last of the rebellion. I would like to draw on this. Okay. For the last of the rebellions on this ship, you got like Jar Jar Binks for some reason. They let him live. And then there's Padme. And Padme has her kids on the ship. And then it's twins. It's two of them. But Anakin over here, right? The Emperor is like, we can fix you. We have the technology. And so he gives him robot arms and robot legs and a robot helmet because, this is important in the future. And he tells Anakin that the twins died. And then he's like, no! And then he is reborn as evil robot guy. That we'll talk about in the 4th movie. But so now there's the twins. Oh, by the way, Padme dies in childbirth. That's kind of important. He can sense, apparently he can just sense when people die, and he senses that Padme's dead, and that's like his he already couldn't come back, but apparently he couldn't come back more from that. So his mom died, and then his wife love died, but he has 2 kids that he doesn't really know that they exist. And then that's the end of the movie. Yeah. Obi-Wan exists. I think he's alive. He's alive. I don't remember what happens to him, but he's here. He's chilling. Oh, yeah, right. Obi-Wan will be important in the next movie. But yeah, so that's the end of the 3rd movie. We got 2 twins now. Padme's dead. Luke Skywalker... No, sorry, excuse me, spoilers. Anakin Skywalker has become robot guy, and the Emperor has basically taken over the world with his, electrical powers. His electrical powers. And that's how that movie ends. Okay, so 4, 5, and 6, I didn't watch as much, so 4, 5, and 6 is gonna be a little rough. These 3, I feel like I was pretty lore accurate to everything that happened at every point in the plot. But I think we might run into some trouble in 4, 5, and 6. But how am I doing? How am I doing so far? 4th one is Return. Wow, why did I write these letters so small? Of the Jedi. And by the way, this is going to be a spoiler. This is a bit of a spoiler. Return of the Jedi, that name. Okay, so Return of the Jedi. So, once again, we started in the same... Maybe this is like, the goal, but we start again on a very sandy planet. And Obi-Wan has come to this planet for I don't remember what reason, but he is here, right? And then he goes and he finds this kid. Not a kid, this is an adult. He's probably like 20 or something. And he's like, I'm so bored, I hate this planet. It's not fun to be on this planet. There's some stuff also with like he has like family or something, and the entire family gets murdered and set on fire, and he's like, well, I guess I got nothing else to do here, and so they leave the planet. Oh, but in order to leave the planet, they meet this guy, right? this guy, and his name is Han Solo, and he's kind of a jackass, if I'm being honest. Oh, and they also had a girl who's... Okay, dude. Leia. They got Leia, right? They got Leia, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi recruits Luke Skywalker. He leaves the planet in order to leave the planet because they have to get through... Basically, you have to get through, like, there's, like, to leave... To, like, get to different parts of the planet because, again, the Emperor controls everything now, with the Sith. You have to, like, beat this blockade, okay? And, this guy... I keep forgetting his name. Han Solo is like, nah, I can get through any blockade in the planet. And they're like, oh, really now? They're really flirty, these two, by the way. There's a lot of flirting going on in Star Wars. So then they leave the planet. He promises to leave the planet. Oh, I forgot to mention, he has like this woolly bear named Chewbacca. Chewbacca's like the coolest character in 4, 5, and 6. But he's got Chewbacca. And then... Oh, yeah. Okay. No. I remember. Okay. We're good. Dude, for a second, I was like, do I remember? Oh, no! I forgot to create a new page for that. Oh, well. We'll be fine. Oh, that's the wrong color. Y'all remember that this is the 4th one, okay? Here, let me add it in pencil so you don't forget. 4th. Okay, there we go. We're good now. Okay, so... they've left the planet, they beat the blockade, and then they go onto another ship. And they're like, they think it's a planet, but they're like, that's no planet, that's a spaceship! And then why do they go onto this ship? It's kind of dumb, but they go onto this ship, and then there's a bunch of, like, stormtroopers, and stormtroopers have really bad aim, so they, like, do a bunch of things where they, like, go to different parts of the ship, but the stormtroopers have potato aim, so they never actually kill them. And then they get into this part of the ship where there's, like, this monster snake, right? And the walls come just pushing down. Like, they're so harsh on them, right? And then... When does he train? Oh, yeah. And then they fall out of this. He has to train with Yoda at some point. So then they land on... Before they get on this, right, I remember now. Okay, sorry. I'm about to retcon some plot. Okay, so before they get on the big Death Star, first they crash land on this, like swamp planet. And then what do they meet on the swamp planet but the icon himself, Yoda, who it turns out has just been messing around for years when he could have saved everything, but he was like, nah, he, like, is eating bugs or something. Like, I don't even know what Yoda thinks he's doing on this planet. But anyways, he makes Anakin carry him on his back and do some other stuff to train him and do some flips and sort of stuff. And then Anakin comes out of that and he's, or not Anakin, Luke, sorry, spoilers. Luke's come out of this, and he's like mega buff trained. He's like, ha! And then they all get back together again onto the Millennium Falcon, which, by the way, is Han Solo's ship. I don't remember what they were doing in between. Oh, yeah, right. So while Luke was training, right, you had oh, oops, why is that a circle? While Luke was training, Han Solo, and Chewbacca, and Leia, right? Leia, like, gets captured, and they put her in this, like, bikini top, and there's this ugly worm thing called Jabba the Hutt, okay? And Jabba the Hutt, they do some stuff, and Jabba the Hutt... No. Okay, so this is important. They're with Jabba the Hutt. Okay, they're with. Who gets Jabba the Hutt? No, wait, Jabba the Hutt's the 5th movie, right? Because then they have to. Oh, sorry. Okay, retcon what I just said. That's in the 5th movie. You never saw that. Okay, so I remember. So Anakin gets trained, and then they pick him up on the ship. Okay, we're good. Sorry, I forgot a little bit, but no, we're good now. So they pick him up on the ship after he gets trained. And then they go to the Death Star planet, and they're like, yeah, we gotta take care of that. That's kind of threatening the entire world. And so then, again, the Death Star still has this little spot that anyone can target, right? This is really important. Anyone can target it. So, of course, Han Solo has to do his moment to blow up the ship. But before they blow up the ship, they have to go into the ship. And again, they do the little crushy thing and all that. But what's most important is there's this ledge right here. There's this bridge, right? And you get some cool scenes where you see Darth Vader. And they're like, we don't believe in your religion. And he's like, I find your lack of faith disturbing. And he force chokes like 500 people, and I don't really know where HR is on this ship, but it's certainly non-existent, because anytime you piss off Darth Vader even like a little bit, he force chokes you. So yeah, a lot of people aren't really big fans of Darth Vader. But anyways, Darth Vader ends up on this, and they have their little fight, right? Luke Skywalker and, oh, spoilers, remember, if you remember, the guy that I told you about, the robot, is actually Darth Vader. And so Darth Vader cuts his hand off, and he's dangling by a thread, right? And then he's like, Luke, I am your father. And he's like, no! Also kind of awkward, because he kind of had a crush and was hitting on Leia too. And then he reveals Darth Vader, because, you know, Darth Vader just loves to start some shit. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, also Leia's your sister. So that girl oh yeah, they made out with also. I forgot to mention, he makes out with Leia, and then you find out that they're siblings. And then he's like, yeah, sorry, you made out with your sister. And he's like, he literally like, oh. But you're my father? No! Like that, right? And then he cuts his hand off. And then he, like, kicks him. And then Anakin goes falling into the... not Luke. Luke goes falling into the abyss. And then it ends with Luke getting turned into basically like a Pokemon card. Like a giant metal Pokemon card. Okay? Think like a person... but, like, stuck in carbon? Oh, and Han Solo does, too. Basically, everyone becomes, like, carbon cards and gets stuck in that, okay? So then, that's how it ends, with them stuck as carbon clones, and Leia, made out with her brother, but, I mean, you know... at that point, they had bigger things to worry about, because he's literally made of metal right now, and Chewbacca is also... like, no! And that's how this one ends. What's this one called again? Hoth? I think it's like Fight for Hoth, right? Yeah, it's like the Fight for Hoth. Okay. So, okay, Fight for Hoth. Yeah. I won't spoil what Hoth is yet, but it's the Fight for Hoth. Okay. So this movie starts... they got two of them stuck in carbon. You got Leia, who... okay, again, like I said, Leia, they put in, like, a bikini, and she's being held by this evil snake monster named Jabba the Hutt. Okay? And then you have Chewbacca, who wants to say, well, you find out that Leia, right? Because Jabba the Hutt, like, bought these two guys because... Lando Calrissian, who was Han Solo's friend but not friend anymore, betrayed him and sold the metal Pokemon cards to Jabba the Hutt. And so Leia goes in undercover and basically tricks Jabba the Hutt and makes it so that, you know, he thinks he's won. And then Chewbacca's like, wah, wah, and she's like, no, don't worry, I'll save him. And so then she murders him, and then gets them turned back into, she gets them uncarbonized, but she's like, choking, murdering, Jabba the Hutt, and then she's like, turn them back or else! And so he turns them back, and they're like, woohoo! And then he gets a gun. And then at some point, Han Solo shoots first. But that's a controversial statement, apparently. And then, so they get off the planet. And then they accidentally, while they're flying, they fly into Hoth, right? Again, the gang's all here now. Everyone's happy. We're all on our little Millennium Falcon Dorito. We're heading over to Hoth, okay? Now, Hoth is this really cold, like, frozen planet. And here you find out that the rebellion, that which, by the way, Leia is like a princess and in charge of the rebellion. I forgot to mention that, but she is. And so they land on the planet, and the rebellion's like, hey, the Empire is sending all of their ships, like the ATT, and I forgot anything else, but all you need to know is that that one's really cute. There's like one that's like this, and one that just has 2 legs. There's an AT-AT. Oh, did I mention that Luke Skywalker has C-3PO and R2-D2? It's just a fun little tidbit that I feel like should have given away the fact that he was, you know, the kid. But anyways, that was like a big spoiler. And then they get on Hoth, and then they do some stuff, and they're getting ready to fight, and then for some reason, Luke Skywalker just gets lost on Hoth, and he has this, like, cute little llama, basically, and he's like, I need to murder you and cut you open so I can go in your body for warmth. So he goes in the body of his favorite snow llama so that he can survive. And it's pretty... It's perhaps the most brutal thing you see in Star Wars, or other than, of course, like, you know, kids getting murdered. Yeah, so he kills the llama, and I get really upset anytime I think about that. And he huddles in it for warmth, even though he, like, had a coat or whatever. And he makes it through the night, and then he goes back to the rebellion and is like, hey, let's not talk about the whole, you know, I murdered my llama, you know, let's not talk about that. And then there's this big fight for Hoth, and they have, like, if you ever played Battlefront, they got, like, pew, 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 and then again, you got the AT-ATs. These guys, they basically look also like llamas. It's kind of like Revenge of the Llama, and you're rooting for the robot llamas, to get revenge for their fallen comrade, but sadly, the rebellion wins in this one. I mean, we want the rebellion to win, but again, you kind of want the robot llamas to get revenge, so it's kind of a toss-up, 50-50. And so they fight for Hoth. I don't remember strategically why Hoth is so important. That, I mean, at this point, the Empire's probably thrown billions, like actual billions in money into this fight. And there's more stuff where there's another ship that they need. They kind of have a lot of... They like blowing up ships. Like, I don't really want to know what the tax implications are of all the damages. But they send a bunch of pilots. Luke's another pilot. I think at this point, Leia kisses him again. I feel like it happened again. But it was just to make Han Solo jealous because she'd do that, you know? And then after that, they blow up another ship. I don't remember why at this point. I don't feel like Luke's done any... Oh, they fixed his hand, too. They, like, gave him a hand. It's kind of funny, because it's like he's starting to take off more like his... You know, his father is starting to be more like his father. But they blow it up, and then that saves Hoth, and so the rebellion kind of has some hope, right? They're like, oh, maybe we can actually win this. And, again, Luke is not a good Jedi. Like... I don't know, probably because Yoda taught him only how to do backflips, but Luke is not really doing any Jedi stuff at this point. So, yeah, they win. The episode, or like the movie ends with them blowing up another ship, and them saving the incredibly important strategic position of Hoth, the inhospitable, cold planet that you have to murder llamas to survive, but they won. And that's, you know, hope. Oh, is this one called A New Hope? I think because they won, they call it A New Hope. Yeah. A New Hope. Okay, so and that's the 5th one. Again, not a lot happens. I feel like the middle movies don't have a lot going for them, but, they did win. So I think that's pretty good, right? Yeah, this one's A New Hope. Yeah. Please do your Chewbacca impression again. Thanks, Colin. No, wait, no. Oh, no, he goes like this. You know, he does that, like, that noise. So yeah, that's the 5th movie. I think that's pretty close, right? Is there anything I missed? I don't don't think so. Honestly, the most important part of the Hoth movie is the murdering the llama. Okay, so now we have the 6th movie. The 6th one, I feel like it's called Return of the Jedi. I can't even begin to explain what I mixed up. It's okay. I think this one, no, Return of the Jedi. We got Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. We got A New Hope. Wait, which one is Empire Strikes Back? No, it's gotta be, this has to be Return of the Jedi. Return? I think I misnamed one. Of the Jedi. This one's Return of the Jedi. Oh, the 5th one was Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, this is Return of the Jedi Part 2. Electric Boogaloo. Okay. So, gosh, what happens in this movie? Does anything of value happen in this movie? I remember the very last part. Oh, yeah! Okay, there's another Death Star. Now I do remember this. There's another Death Star. Not a lot happens in this movie. Okay. So Leia and Han Solo kiss. And make up. Leia and Han Solo, they get together. And Chewbacca's kind of like an awkward third wheel. Oh! No, something really important happens in this movie. They go to this forest. And they meet these super cute teddy bears. And these teddy bears really hate the Empire. And so, this is the Ewok. They're called Ewoks, okay? They're very cute, and I need everyone to know about them. So they do some fighting against the Empire in the forest, and they recruit the Ewoks to help them, okay? So then, after the Ewoks, they get back to the ship, and they go on the ship. And then this is where the big fight happens between Luke Skywalker and his father. Anakin Skywalker, who of course is Darth Vader. Darth Vader hasn't really been doing much. I mean, honestly, he doesn't really have much to do. That's the thing about the Empire. Like, they won, you know? So the Empire's kind of lame sauce, because they're like, well, we already won. We're kind of just maintaining the status quo. Whereas the rebellions are like, we must win. So, Han Solo does some stuff, and he blows up another Death Star. I don't know how he can keep getting away with blowing up Death Stars, but he does blow up another Death Star. They have their fight. Luke Skywalker kills Vader, his father. You are my father. And so Vader dies. They also go to find the Emperor, and they do murder the Emperor. But honestly, that's not as that's like very anticlimactic. He doesn't even do any lightning spells. He just kind of dies. Like, boop. And there's a whole, like, expanded universe where you find out that the Emperor has, like, 15 clones of himself, and it's, like, really, really lame. But then, this is the only part of the movie I remember other than, for some reason, the Death Star blows up. I don't remember what happens in the middle of that. Does Yoda come and fight? I don't think he does. I'm pretty sure Yoda just screws around wherever he is. Like, I think it's on, like, Yargovich or something? Some planet that starts with a Y. And so then we got the Ewoks. The Ewoks helped us win the war. Han Solo shoots this thing. Oh, Admiral Akbar is here. Admiral Akbar does lead the rebellions to fight the Death Star. I do remember that. They fight. These guys die. And then there's a celebration at the end. It's like a whole thing, and a lot of people get spaghettios about this. But when they're celebrating at the end, Luke Skywalker sees a bunch of ghosts. Wait, he sees Yoda's ghost. Yoda dies somewhere in here. I don't know which movie Yoda died in, but Yoda died. Okay, so you got Qui-Gon Jinn. You got Yoda. You got, like, young kid Anakin here. Anakin. And you got Obi-Wan Kenobi. All is like ghosts, which is like a whole thing, and people got really upset about because like blah blah blah, Jedi whatever can't be a ghost. But anyways, the ghosts come to celebrate at the end, and they're like, yeah, good job. And so then there's Luke, and then there, wow, oh no, that's forearms. There's Luke, and he sees the ghost, and he's like, cool. And then you got Han Solo and Leia, who of course hook up, and they create the really really angsty antagonist of 7, 8, and 9. Not that important, but they do that. It's like a whole thing, and then he kills his own father. It's kind of like a full circle thing in 7, 8, and 9. But again, what's most important is they introduce these ghosts that like triggered the entire fan base, and it's kind of funny. And they guess they blew up another Death Star. I don't think anything else happens in the 6th movie. Is the 6th movie that important? I mean, they have the Ewoks. The Ewoks are very important. I think that's it. That's all of Star Wars. There you go. Ta-da! And that's all of Star Wars. How do y'all feel more knowledgeable about the Star Wars cinematic universe now? Do you feel like I've provided great value? Like there's, I'm sure there was some gaps in your knowledge that I helped fill. So, oh wait, this was really important. I forgot one more thing. When they're fighting, do you remember I said that guy Jet? That was from like the Clone Wars. His son comes here in this, and he's like Boba. His name's Boba Fett, right? Yeah, I'm trying to like make his gear. He has a jetpack. He's Boba Fett. They do at some point kill Boba Fett too. I don't remember why, but Luke Skywalker does murder Boba Fett because Boba Fett's like not on his side or whatever. So I guess I did miss that part. That's a core component, not really, but you know. It's like you had Jet Fett, then you had Boba Fett, and so it was like a whole thing. But other than that, we covered everything, you know? Boba T Fett. I think it was great! I hope y'all enjoyed my Star Wars presentation. You know, oh here, let me allow myself to get Lord. I hope y'all enjoyed my, I hope y'all enjoyed my Star Wars presentation, my 100% lore accurate Star Wars presentation. Thank you very much.